In 1993, Larry Clark wanted to make the next great American teenage movie. Being a middle-aged man at the time, he luckily had the wherewithal not to try to write the entire movie himself. We all know what it sounds like when old men try to write for kids.
Oh man, I can't even remember the last time I walked outside without my face in my phone. Everything looks so HD.
He put it like this.
And so I was trying to make the world about kids where no adults were allowed. I wanted the audience to feel that they were like eavesdropping on a world that if they weren't watching this film, they would never know about.
So he took a massive chance on a regular 19-year-old boy who he had write the screenplay. The movie was called Kids, and the boy was
Harmony Corrine. That's an interesting name.
Yeah.
And you changed it when you were younger? You changed it to what?
To harmful, because I thought it would be, tougher, because I used to fight a lot when I was little.
19 years later, three friends, Daniel Katz, David Finkel, and John Hodges, left their job in film production to start their own company, A24 Films. But things got off to a shaky start with their first distribution project, a glimpse inside the mind of Charles Swan III. For a first project, it may have seemed relatively safe, being a comedy starring Charlie Sheen. At the time, he was coming off the massive success of 2.5 Men. And on top of that, he was beginning to become the new goofy comedy self-aware type.
I don't know, man. I was banging 7-gram rocks and finishing them because that's how I roll. I have one speed, I have one gear. Go!
The following year, he'd be featured as the president in Machete Kills.
And introducing Carlos Estevez.
I'm the president of the United States, man.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen's real name is Carlos Estevez. Unfortunately, it was panned by critics, and it was a really grim first step that could have killed A24 in the crib. After distributing one more film though, this time a serious coming-of-age drama called Ginger and Rosa, which was well received by critics, it appeared that A24 Films, now just A24, was starting to find themselves in the kinds of projects that they would connect to in the future. Their next move was an important one, and they took a huge gamble on a non-obvious movie made by a non-obvious man. Spring Breakers by Harmony Korine.
Did you win? Were you a good fighter?
Not very good.
Yeah.
Returning $31 million on a $5 million budget, Spring Breakers garnered just enough praise to avoid oblivion due to its controversy, mostly around how it portrayed women. Instead, it got people talking. Huffington Post described the film as Scarface meets Britney Spears. And that sounded pretty interesting. The film made a slew of top 10 lists in 2013, including the Los Angeles Times, IndieWire, and the AV Club. A24 had found its voice with these oddball indie-style movies that were darker in tone. And they were so happy with this one that they made their first 4-year consideration campaign in an attempt to get James Franco a nomination for Best Actor.
Come on, y'all. Why acting suspicious?
They possibly liked it too much, because in a step backwards, they ended up backing the Bling Ring. Bling Ring. It's hard to say. A movie generally considered to be a little too similar to Spring Breakers and then not as good. But they found their sea legs again in back-to-back critical hits in Enemy and Under the Skin. And similar follow-ups in Ex Machina, Room, and Florida Project, all of which received Oscar buzz, Ex Machina winning Best Visual Effects. A24 would appear to be at the peak of their game with Moonlight, which just narrowly lost Best Picture to La La Land.
There's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture. Moonlight, Best Picture.
Yeah, that's right. A24 produced Moonlight and won Best Picture while having only been a company for 4 years. Our boys had done it. But a year before, something creepy was brewing. But first, a brief history lesson. Successful horror films are especially vulnerable to copycats, and some years it feels like only one type of horror movie gets made.
Oh my God! Sleepaway Camp. You won't be coming home.
In 2004, Twisted Pictures made Saw, and it took the world by storm. And suddenly, a new genre was born. Torture porn.
I want to play a game.
Loads of copycats flooded the market, and the new face of horror began to look a lot like Eli Roth. Until it happened again with a new trendsetter, this time a movie made by Blumhouse, Paranormal Activity. In 2007, Saw 4 came out to a $139 million box office, which is really good, but Paranormal Activity made $193 million. In the grand scheme of things, that doesn't seem like a huge difference, but keep in mind, the Saw 4 had a $10 million budget, and Paranormal Activity, $15,000. So guess what happened next? Blumhouse happened, pooping out an immense amount of movies about possessions of demons and hauntings, rather than torture sections of watching people get dissected. They had stumbled upon a holy grail of movie investments that almost guaranteed returns. Not only did they make highly profitable movies, but they made a lot of them. A fucking lot of them. And I think a lot of people were finding themselves falling out of love with the horror genre because there was just a glut of these low-effort movies being made. Until in 2015, A24 produced a horror film by a first-time director, Robert Eggers. The Witch was an instant classic, and A24 would begin a most horrific journey.
Kindred, our father's houses. For what?
In short order, A24 became the master of producing art horror. There's just something different about an A24 horror film. They're slower paced, and they relied less on jump scares. They're more cerebral, and they're beautiful to look at. Certainly not the only kind of movie to come out of the studio, but making up a large portion of their portfolio, and just generally being a lot better than their main competitor in the horror field, Blumhouse.
Truth. That's not how this works.
By the time 2019 came around, people who considered themselves cinephiles were on the lookout for what this company was making next. And for the studio who brought us Midsommar, it once again made a non-obvious choice in the form of Uncut Gems.
You having a good time?
Yes.
This was going to be their 2019 Oscar film, and it's amazing. Uncut Gems gave me so much anxiety I had to pause it multiple times to catch my breath. It features a command performance by Adam Sandler, I believe his best. It became A24's highest grossing film domestically at $50 million, so it was expected to get a nomination for Best Picture, if not at least Best Actor. So then the Oscars come and... It turns out the Oscars is not a fan of comedy actors, and there's interesting accusations that they don't actually make sure that the people vetting the movies watch all the movies.
This is this person talking about his performance. That performance was a tour de force. He's emerging as a truly great actor, but then he does cheesy Netflix comedies that are really dumb. And a lot of people say, well, what the does that have to do with anything?
But the movie itself has nothing to do with the movie itself. You're holding his history and judging him just by that, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's just so much politicking going on in the Oscars that somehow this gem of a movie got completely snubbed. But it really doesn't matter, because firstly, the Oscars is trash and no one should watch it anyway. But also, this wasn't the first setback that A24 has overcome, and I can't wait to see him do it again. Already there's an A24 thing in the air. I see it when I see Gretel and Hansel or the trailer for The Other Lamb. And I wonder if movies like this would even get made if it wasn't for The Witch. So looking to the future, The Green Knight and Saint Maude look fantastic, and I'll be the first in line to go watch them both. Till then, thanks for watching. Till next time. So I was listening to my favorite podcast when I found out that Warner Brothers has decided to start using artificial intelligence to figure out what movies to greenlight.
Yeah, so basically,
lots of money.
Greenlighting movies will no longer be up to human beings at Warner Brothers.
In their own words, the system can calculate in seconds what used to take days to assess by a human when it comes